This is my final presentation. So my industry is how the rise of technology is leaving the paper industry behind, but the switch may not come as soon as we think. In today's world, digital tools are starting to be dominant forces in the workplace, the classroom, and in everyday life. Millions of Americans are leaping towards these new technologies to try and boost their efficiency and ease of doing a certain task. Computers and digital tools may seem like a much better alternative to physical tools, but are they really that effective? Researchers from UCLA conducted an experiment in hopes of finding out if writing notes longhand or taking them on a computer was more effective. In this experiment, participants would sit in a lecture and take notes on either a laptop or with a pen and a paper. A week after the lecture, they were asked to come back and take a quiz on the lecture. It was found that students who took notes on paper comprehended the material much better and scored higher on the quiz that they were given at the end of the experiment. Students who took notes on paper tapped into System 2 thinking, which allowed them to engage in the material better. Laptops were essentially a copy and paste button, as the students took verbatim notes from the lecture that they could not go back on and remember. When participants took longhand notes, they wrote them down in a way that they could understand and remember. Researchers from Baylor University conducted a study in hopes of finding how different mediums of calendars affect planning behavior. In this study, participants were told to either use a paper calendar or a calendar on their phone. They were told to plan an activity to put on the calendar a week from then and show up for the activity when the time came. It was found that not only people who used an online calendar showed up at a lower rate, but their level of planning was also lower. With paper calendars, the planning detail was better and there was higher comprehension of the activity that they set out to do. Workers are also less likely to fall victim to the planning fallacy because they are constantly reminded of the task at hand because they can see it. Another part of the study focused on using a physical calendar in the workplace versus on the computer. A physical calendar led to better punctuality, task completion, and time management. This agrees with Ariely's view of procrastination. When things are clearly marked, things are more likely to get done. When people could literally check off a box, they were better and more focused. A team of researchers from the University of Hawaii at Manoa examined the sustainability of technology in the workplace and organizational settings. The 2025 study focused on the Swedish public healthcare system and their new IT projects that would change their day-to-day work life. Researchers would interview 3 IT people and 5 administrators. In hopes of finding how going paperless affects workplace sustainability, they questioned workers about how their new online systems affected them and their peers while working. The workers all said that while digital systems helped them broaden what information they could gather, it made the system much more complex and harder to navigate than the old paper system. Acquisitional utility, a term coined by Thaler, is the perceived value of a product compared to the actual cost. The workers started to feel that the new systems were not worth the time and effort because they could get more work done with the old system. The conclusion of the study was the suggestion that new systems should be integrated into the workplace rather than a drastic change in which the old system completely disappears. You can't overlook the human element. My recommendations to industry leaders would be to slowly integrate new technologies into their current systems. I also recommend to not rush into any big changes with technology by wiping out the use of paper or physical tools completely. When people are forced to make a change in their daily life, productivity and quality of work takes a downward spiral. Make things easier by slowly bringing in new technologies to the workplace and track performance while using the new tools to see if they are really worth making a big switch. Many physical tools that we have are currently more effective than their online counterparts. If statistics are tracked when using physical tools versus online ones, we can find a way to maximize our efficiency with both tools having their place. So a way this could be tested in a natural experiment is to observe a classroom that's making the switch from technology or from paper to technology. So in this scenario, it's a middle school classroom switching to using iPads for their learning. So compare the grades from iPad and paper learning and then take quizzes on the comprehension of the material. And then have a classroom set aside a separate classroom that makes a gradual change into the iPads, starting with the paper in the beginning of the semester and making the switch as the year progresses. Vary quiz times throughout the semester, or like time in between quizzes, to measure the retention of information. You can then use these findings to measure how technology actually affects the learning. Are they learning more? Are they learning at a better rate? Then you can make a progression plan for integrating the iPads into learning to maximize the quality of education for the students, rather than just dumping it all on them at once. And my sources.